on, everybody, and welcome back to the Hangout Spot where you already know it's Real Talk Sports Talk, live from my man cave. It's your boy Johnny, and let's talk Jets. In particular, the backup quarterback position, which is a huge position of need. We've spoken on prior videos where we addressed some of my offensive line targets that I think the Jets should kick the tires on in free agency. We talked about some wide receivers that would be some good options to play alongside Garrett Wilson. And now let's talk about who should sit behind Aaron Rodgers next year. Because we all saw what happened last year. Unfortunately, he got hurt 4 plays in. Zach Wilson had to become the full-time starter at quarterback when he should have been redshirted instead. What happened after that? I don't need to go into specifics. We all remember. But at the end of the day, it resulted in another 7-10 season, no playoffs. And now Zach Wilson more than likely is going to be traded. His time here in New York is up. And we need to do this year what we should have done last year, which is get a viable veteran backup quarterback that can go in there at the drop of a dime and operate this offense and be efficient, move the chains, not turn the football over, and give the team a chance to win every week. We did not have that. We have to get that right this offseason because the clock is ticking. And we can't take any more chances. Let's not forget, although we're all optimistic that Aaron Rodgers is coming back, he will be 41 years old in December, and that's reality. He's coming off a major Achilles injury. That's also reality. And not everybody can be Tom Brady and play at a high level until they're 45 years old. If Aaron Rodgers, for some reason, is that guy that can do that, then we need to add some reinforcements. Offensive line, bookend tackles, some more weapons, a backup in the event that we need to spare him a game or he gets banged up for a couple games. That way we don't have to run the risk of throwing him out there while he's not 100% and potentially making it worse. So we need a guy that we can lean on, that we can trust, that can go out there and give us a chance to win in the event that he can't play. So I'm going to give my top 5 free agent backup quarterback targets that I would like the Jets to take a peek at in free agency. And I don't know if these guys are going to be viable options. We're going to have a good time with this. It's all hypothetical. Again, this is my personal list, my preference. And let's say it all aligns and the salaries are well within reach and any of these guys are accepting of coming in a backup role, I think any one of these guys would be a perfect fit for the Jets. And I'm going to start with my number 1 free agent target, backup quarterback that I'd like the Jets to kick the tires on, and that's Ryan Tannehill from the Tennessee Titans. Now remember, if we were looking at a veteran quarterback to come in here and start, because we didn't have Aaron Rodgers, and I don't think I'd be looking at Ryan Tannehill. I don't trust him to be that guy anymore at this point in his career. But for a backup quarterback, I think he'd be the perfect fit. I mean, look at it. He's been in the league for 12 years, so he has the experience. He's 6'4", 217 pounds. He's 35 years old. So again, he's past his prime. He's played on 2 teams in his career, but he's put up some decent numbers. 64.3% completion percentage for his career. Over 34,000 yards, almost 35,000 yards passing, 216 touchdowns, and 115 interceptions. And he has a career QBR of 91.2. His best seasons in 2020 was with the Titans, where he had 33 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. And he passed for a little bit over 3,800 yards. In 6 seasons, he's had 21 touchdowns or more. And only in 2 seasons has he had more interceptions than touchdowns. One of them was his rookie season. And the last one was last year, where he had 4 touchdowns and 7 interceptions and ultimately lost his starting job to rookie Will Levis. But make no mistakes about it, man. He's a proven vet. He's played in some playoff games. He's had 27 game-winning drives in his career. Hasn't been great in the playoffs. But I definitely trust that he can go in there and operate an offense and give this team a chance to win in the event that Rodgers needs to sit down for a game or 2. Right now, the destinations that are rumored for potential destinations is the Falcons or the Broncos. And that would make the most sense if he's looking for an opportunity to at least compete for a starting job. So he may not even look at the Jets. The Jets may not even look at him because of the price tag. But again, hypotheticals. If he's willing to accept the backup role and none of these other two teams are willing to promise him a chance to start, maybe the Jets need to take a peek at that. Second quarterback I think the Jets should look at is Gardner Minshew from the Indianapolis Colts. Personally, I love me some Minshew mania. I do. He has a lot of energy, a lot of fire. I like that type of attitude in my quarterback. He's a little bit on the smaller side. He's 6'1", 225 pounds. He's been in the league for 5 years, though. He's only 27 years old. So the guy is barely hitting his prime yet. He was drafted out of Washington State, drafted by the Jaguars. He was actually their starter for a couple years. He's played in 49 games. He started 37 of those games in his career. He has a 62.6% completion percentage, 9,937 yards passing, 59 touchdowns and 24 interceptions, and a QBR a little bit over 90. So he's not a turnover machine. For the most part, he takes care of the football. His best season was his first year with the Jaguars, where he passed for 3,271 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. And last year came in as the backup when Anthony Richardson went down, started 13 games, passed for 3,300 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. And he had the Colts one game away from the last wild card spot. And like I said, it looks like when he's out there, guys love playing with him and playing for him. I love that in my quarterback. But the problem is, with the season that he had last year, he's definitely going to probably look at a situation where at least he's promised a chance to compete for a starting job. If I were him, that's what I would do. Right now on social media, the rumored destinations are either the Giants or Commanders. If he wants to compete for a job, I guess those two spots make more sense than the Jets. But if he wants to be a backup and probably stay here, Aaron Rodgers is probably only going to be around for 2 years tops. There's a possibility he could look at that situation and say to himself that maybe he could become the Jets quarterback, or at least the bridge quarterback when Aaron Rodgers goes away. Again, just a selling point that I would throw at him if I was Joe Douglas, but if he was available, they should give him a call. Third quarterback that I wouldn't mind seeing in a Jets uniform, and he's solid. He's been solid for the most part of his career, is Jacoby Brissett. And he's actually a quarterback that I think was available after Aaron Rodgers got hurt that the Jets never even inquired about. He ended up going to the Commanders. And I think that was later on in the season, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, he has size. And for the most part, I've spoken to fans of teams that he's actually played for, and they like him because he's a good guy and he's a leader in the locker room. He's 6'4", 235 pounds. He's been in the league for 8 years. He's 31 years old, and the Patriots drafted him out of NC State. He's played on 5 teams in his career. And in his career, he's played in 79 games. He started 48 of those games. And in that span, he's had a 61.3% completion percentage. He's passed for over 10,500 yards. He has 51 touchdowns and only 23 interceptions. Common theme here, a guy that's not going to be a turnover machine for the most part. He's going to be careful with the football. His best seasons, 2019, he was a starter for the Colts in 15 games. He almost threw for 3,000 yards, 18 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and he also rushed for 4 touchdowns. So he's a guy that's not afraid to use his legs and pick up a first down. That's never a bad thing on any offense. And he's never, ever had a season where he's had more interceptions than touchdowns. I love that. I really do. I'm tired of the Jets having quarterbacks that just turn the damn football over. Let's get some guys in here that know how to take care of the football. He wasn't that bad in the Browns either in 2022, and that was his last year where he was a full-time starter. He passed for over 2,600 yards. He had 12 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. And like I said earlier, he's known as a good teammate. And it appears at this point in his career, he's accepted that role as a backup quarterback. And that's a good thing because being a backup quarterback isn't easy, man. I mean, when you are working during the week with limited amount of reps, it's vital that you keep yourself prepared mentally and physically. That way, if you need to come in the drop of a dime, you are ready to go out there and perform at a high level. And it looks like he's accepted that and he's done that well. I think the Jets should definitely take a look at him if he's interested in coming here. Fourth quarterback that I wouldn't mind the Jets taking a look at is Tyrod Taylor from the New York Giants. And he's a bit of a reach for me because there's a lot to like about Tyrod Taylor. I actually like Tyrod Taylor as a quarterback. He's a good guy. Seems like he's a really good leader in the huddle. And he doesn't turn the football over. Those are things I do like about him. And he's had success in this league. The thing I don't like about Tyrod Taylor is that if you sign him, you're probably going to have to sign a third quarterback because more than likely, he'll probably only play in a game or two before he gets hurt and is out for multiple games. He's just extremely injury prone. So he's a guy that you really can't trust. But I like him because I'm not asking him to come in here and play 15 games. In fact, if all goes well, I don't want him to play at all. I want Aaron Rodgers to play every single game. But I'm thinking that if we need somebody, to spell him for a week or two because he's banged up a bit, you just don't want him to go out there if he's not 100%, then I think Tyrod Taylor can be that guy. But we have to show up the offensive line if that's the case, because if a big guy lands on him, they'll crack a couple of ribs, and like I said, you won't see him again. But his success in the league, it can't be denied. He's played in 92 games. He's started 58 games. He has over a 61% completion percentage, over 12,000 yards passing, 65 touchdowns, only 29 interceptions. So again, he's careful with the football. He's also rushed for 19 touchdowns, so he can move in the pocket. But he can't take a hit. And we're not talking about, a broken finger or minor injuries. We're talking about cracked ribs, punctured lungs. This guy, he's had it tough, with some of the injuries that he's had to endure, throughout his career. His best years by far were with the Bills. That run between 2015 and 2017, he had 51 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, and he rushed for 14 touchdowns. And 2 out of those 3 seasons, he passed for over 3,000 yards. He actually made the Pro Bowl in one of those seasons playing under Rex Ryan, but you're never going to see that again. This is who Tyrod Taylor is. He's a backup. More than likely, he's accepted that role. I know that he still feels that he can start in this league, and more than likely, he may kick the tires to see if there's a team that will give him a chance to start. I doubt it based on his injury history. This would be a perfect destination for him. But again, you might have to get a third guy, to be the third string quarterback, because I don't know if you can trust him more than a game or two. But definitely worth looking at. And last but not least, the fifth quarterback that I think the Jets should definitely do their due diligence on. And if none of these other guys are available, he might be worth looking into. And that's Marcus Mariota from the Philadelphia Eagles. I always liked him coming out of college. Now, obviously, he didn't reach his maximum potential. We all know that. There was a lot of promise coming out of Oregon when the Titans drafted him. And it's still hard to believe it's been 9 years he's been in the NFL. It seems like he just got into the league the other day. But he has size. He's only 30 years old. He's 6'4", 222 pounds. Entering his prime years, like I said, 30 years old. He's played for 4 teams: Titans, Raiders, Falcons, and the Eagles last year. But obviously didn't play a lot last year. But for his career, he does have starting experience. He's played in 90 games. He started 74 of those. And he has a 62.7% completion percentage, 5,820 yards passing, 93 touchdowns, and 55 interceptions. And he's rushed for 17 touchdowns. His best season was his second season with the Titans, where he passed for over 3,400 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. He had a QBR a little bit over 95. And his last full season as a starter was 2022, where he started 13 games for the Falcons, and he had 2,219 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. He only had 1 season in his career where he had more interceptions than touchdowns. But he's 30 years old. And again, although it may appear his starting days are behind him, you just never know, right? You go into a situation, guy gets hurt, you go in there, you play great, for an extended stretch, and then all of a sudden next year, you got a team that may give you a shot at a starting gig because you're, let's say, 32 years old. So, I think those are situations that he should take into consideration. This may be a good destination for him to sit behind Aaron Rodgers. At best, Aaron Rodgers will probably have 2 years. That's what I'm thinking. Hopefully it's 3. But he may want to say to himself, maybe I sit behind Rodgers for a couple of years, and when he walks away, I can be a bridge for that next young quarterback. Who knows? I'm just throwing hypotheticals out there, maybe a selling point for the Jets. I don't think he would be a bad option because he has had starting experience in this league, and he's only 30 years old. Definitely worth looking at. And those are my 5 free agent backup quarterback targets that I'd like the Jets to personally look at. And that's just solely based on personal preference. But more importantly, I was looking at guys who had some experience in this league starting, which means they can come in there and they can manage a game appropriately because they've seen defenses before. And I wanted to pick guys that necessarily were not turnover machines, guys that you can trust with the football. And all these guys for the better part of their career really, really don't go out there and throw picks at a high rate. I'm tired of seeing that. If we need to plug a guy in there, we want a guy that's going to be able to manage the game appropriately, not throw it to the other team, give us an opportunity to win. Worst case scenario is none of these guys, whoever we pick up, plays next year, right? We get Aaron Rodgers. He plays the entire season. He's healthy. And, we're a playoff team, but you never know, right? So if you need somebody to come in there, I feel comfortable any one of these guys will give us a much better chance to win than any of those stiffs that we had on the roster last year. And there's some other guys that I didn't put on my list that are out there. I mean, realistically, guys that I don't feel as comfortable with, like Drew Lock was out there. He'll be available. Joshua Dobbs. I mean, I liked the story last year, but the way I saw him end in Minnesota, I'm good. Carson Wentz, Mitch Trubisky just wasn't good. None of those guys moved the needle for me. Baker Mayfield is actually a free agent, but we all know he's going to either stay in Tampa or he's going to be a starter somewhere else, so didn't even bother putting him on my list. Sam Darnold is also out there, right? I actually thought about him, but I thought Jet fans would want to kick me off a ledge if I put him on this list. I mean, that ship has sailed, but I always like Sam. You kind of wish it would have been a little bit different here. If he would have had some weapons, if he would have had some good coaching, maybe he would have had a chance, but we'll never know. I never seen a lot of him or enough of him as a backup to trust that he can come in here and do the job, so that's why I left him off, but I did think about him a little bit, strangely enough. But anyhow, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know what you think about the list, any other quarterbacks that you think that the Jets should target. I'd love to hear your comments, your feedback in the comment section, and as always, if you're new to watching my videos, please subscribe. That way you can come back more often and hang out with your boy here in the hangout spot. Lots of cool stuff, free agency, draft stuff, trades. We're going to be all over it, so make sure you're along for the ride. But as always, I appreciate everybody's support. Appreciate you watching. This is your boy Johnny signing out from the hangout spot, and I will talk to everybody soon.